lórí ọ̀rọ̀ à ń tẹfá fóbìnrin àtẹfá fóbìnrin tí ó ń lọ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ lórí ayélujára yìí, especially lórí Black App yìí, ẹ jọ̀ọ́ mo fẹ́ rọ̀ wá ni, ẹ dákun ẹ jẹ́ ká ṣe dẹ́ẹ̀dẹ́ mẹ́ràhọ́ lórí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí, ẹ dákun mo bẹ̀ wá ni. I've received a lot of messages, a lot of DMs, a lot of videos shared to me lórí pé kí lórí sọ̀rọ̀ yìí. I had a live show lórí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí to address it, and yeah, we were able to la nǹkan kan tàbí méjì yíra wa, but still as mo ṣe ń get the messages, and I thought, okay, let me come here and let me share my own bit on it. This is it. Ṣé rí lákọ̀ọ́kọ́ náà, obìnrin tẹfá obìnrin ò tẹfá, ìtẹfá is for everybody, like it is general fún gbogbo èèyàn, àtọkùnrin àtobìnrin ló lè tẹfá, kò yọ ẹnì kankan sílẹ̀. Àmọ́ the fact that pé a wá láti ìlú tàbí agboolé tí wọ́n ti kí ń tẹfá fóbìnrin, that does not mean pé àwọn míì tí wọ́n wá láti ibi tí wọ́n ti ń tẹfá fóbìnrin, àwọn yẹn wọn ò mọ nǹkan tó ń ṣe, àbí wọ́n ń ṣe nǹkan lòdì sí nǹkan tí Ifá là kalẹ̀, àbí wọ́n ń ṣe nǹkan lòdì sí ìṣẹ̀ṣe. Rárá, kò rí bẹ́ẹ̀. Tá a bá ní ká wo àǹfààní Ifá títẹ̀ gan fúnra ẹ̀, a máa rí i pé kò sí ẹni tí Ifá yọ sílẹ̀ pé kó má tẹ̀fá tàbí kó má jẹ àǹfààní yìí. I made a video on that nípa ìtẹ̀fá itself. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́, you can check out my page for it. Mi fẹ́ kí fídíò yìí gùn jù ni. Torí pé a wá láti ìlú tàbí agboolé tí wọ́n ti kí ń tẹ̀fá, ìyẹn ò sọ wípé àwọn tí wọ́n bá ń tẹ̀fá bóyá nílùú tiwọn àbí nílé tiwọn, àwọn yẹn rèé wọn ò mọ nǹkan tó ń ṣe, àbí kẹ̀ wọ́n ṣe nǹkan lòdì sí ìṣẹ̀ṣe, àbí wọ́n ṣe nǹkan yàtọ̀ sí ìlànà tí Ifá là kalẹ̀. Ṣé rí, wọ́n ní ìdálù ní ìṣèlú, bọ́n ti ń ṣe níbí èèwọ̀ ni nílé ẹlòmíì o. Nǹkan tí mo fẹ́ jẹ́ ká mọ̀ nìyẹn, and I would like us to treat this issue with utmost respect, because the fact pé níbi tẹ́yìn ti wá wọn kì í tẹfá fóbìnrin kò mean pé gbogbo ayé àbí kẹ̀ àwọn ìlú tó kù àwọn náà ṣe the same, àwọn yẹn náà wọn ò gbọdọ̀ tẹfá fóbìnrin. Generalization is the problem I am seeing here, and we don't have to generalize. Need ẹ̀. Ifá pé, ìṣẹ̀ṣe pé, ó sì dùn. Gbogbo nǹkan tá à ń gbà bí ẹni gbàgbà ọtí, nǹkan tí ò tó nǹkan ni. Torí pé bá a ti ń ṣe ní agboolé ẹnìkan, èèwọ̀ ni lọ́dọ̀ ẹlòmíì. Ifá sì ní tẹlẹ́gàn tó lójú, gbogbo wa pátá la jọ ń ṣàwo. So the fact pé ẹ gbọ́ pé obìnrin tẹfá kò mean pé obìnrin wọlé rójù. Rárá, èèwọ̀ ni fóbìnrin láti rójù. But gbogbo right tẹfá pátápátá òun náà máa undergo, aside pé wọ́n fojú ba odò. So what are we talking about? And ẹ tún wá gbà kan sí, ó tún wá ní àwọn agboolé kan, there are some families tó jẹ́ pé ní ilé wọn gan àtọkùnrin àtobìnrin wọn gbọ́dọ̀ fojú rójù. So tí àwọn ọkùnrin wọn gan bá wọgbódù, Ifá ẹlẹ́gàn ni wọ́n tẹ̀ fún wọn, meaning that pé wọn ò ní fojú rí odù. Ṣá máa wá sọ pé àwọn yẹn náà wọn mọ nǹkan tán ṣe ni, àbí kẹ̀ ìṣẹ̀ṣe náà kọ́. Ẹ dákun, let's take things easy with ourselves. Ṣé rí, mo rí pé àwa tá à ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ọ̀rọ̀ yìí, nípa obìnrin tẹfá obìnrin ò tẹfá yìí, mo rí pé púpọ̀ wa we are from that background tó jẹ́ pé wọn kì í tẹfá lọ́dọ̀ wa. Ẹ jẹ́ ká widen scope wa. Tó bá jẹ́ pé ó rú yín lójú, it's a thing you can go ahead and ask people around. Ẹ lọ sáwọn tó ń tẹfá yẹn, ẹ béèrè lọ́wọ́ wọn, bá kí nìdí tẹ́yìn fi ń tẹfá wa ẹ ṣe lọ́dọ̀ tiwa. And this is another one. Ní ibi tílẹ̀ ṣì mọ̀dé lónìí, àwọn kan wà tí wọ́n ń ṣòro ẹgbẹ́ nílùú tiwọn. Àwọn ó ní bọ́n ṣe wọ́n mọ̀ ń fìdí ẹgbẹ́ lílẹ̀, wọn ò ní ṣe orò as a proper ẹgbẹ́, orò ẹgbẹ́ wọn ń ṣe. So ṣàmá láwọn yẹn náà ẹgbẹ́ orò ni, àbí kẹ́ wọn ò ṣe nǹkan tó yẹ kan ṣe. Ìṣẹ̀ṣe fẹ̀ gan, ìṣẹ̀ṣe wide gan, ìlú gbọ̀ngàn dẹ̀ ni, nǹkan tó bá kọjú sẹ́nìkan ló kọ ẹ̀yìn sẹ́lòmíì. Ẹlòmíì lè kọ 6 sílẹ̀ kẹ́ débẹ̀, kẹ́lòmíì débẹ̀ kó ní 9 ló ń rí. That is ìṣẹ̀ṣe for you. And nǹkan tá a ṣe sọ pé ìmọ̀ ìṣẹ̀ṣe ò pin síbì kan nìyẹn. Ẹ dákun, ẹ jọ̀ọ́, gbogbo èyí tá à ń fira wa ṣe lórí social media, we don't need it, because the world is watching. Lóòótọ́, social media has helped us láti lè máa point out àwọn tó ń ṣe ìwà ìbàjẹ́ nínú ìṣẹ̀ṣe, àdúpẹ́ fún yẹn. Àmọ́ ó tún wá ní àwọn nǹkan kan tẹ́ ẹ̀ ń sọ tó ń fọ́ mi lórí, tí mo dẹ̀ máa ń fẹ́ jẹ́ ká bóyá ká mẹ́nu kúrò bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, àbí ká tún fojú ìmí wò pé tí obìnrin bá tẹfá nígbà tó tẹfá tó bá ti tẹfá tán tó bá ti padà sílé ó máa ṣègbéraga sọ́kọ á máa ṣe competition sọ́kọ á believe pé òun superior ọjọ́ kan lọ. There is nothing like that. ṣe róbìnrin tó bá rí bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ lọ wò wá wọ ẹ wò ìwà tó wà lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ ní òun gangan ni ò dáa. And the same thing fáwọn babaláwo tí wọ́n fi ìtẹ́fà yìí àbí ìṣẹ̀ṣe àbó òòṣà tó fi ń ṣe tó fi ń hùwà ìbàjẹ́ àwọn gangan ni kẹ́ ẹ mú àwọn náà dá àwọn gangan láìdá tí ń gbénú ọmọ ẹ̀dá tó ń pè láìdá. So let's not abuse the system. Ẹ jẹ́ ká tackle cause. Let's tackle the cause. Face these people who are doing bad. Àwọn tó ń fi tẹ̀fà parọ́ tó ń sọ pé tó ń jẹ́ kóbìnrin máa believe pé bóyá tó bá tẹ̀fà ó ti superior. You are not superior to nobody. Ó tẹ̀fà ó fi mọ̀ pín ẹni. Ó tẹ̀fà ó fi mọ̀ èèwọ̀ ẹni. Ó tẹ̀fà ó fi mọ̀ orú èèyàn tó jẹ́ ni. Ó tẹ̀fà ó fi mọ̀ àti wáyé ẹni. It is not for you to be feeling superior to a man or even your husband. No, this is not what Itefa is. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́, ẹ má jẹ́ ká misinform àwọn èèyàn. Ọ̀rọ̀ yìí ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ́ pé kò sẹ́ lè win ẹ̀ ni. Bí tèmi bá ń sọ fún yín pé wọ́n ń tẹ̀fá lágbolé mi, ibi tèmi ti wá à ń tẹ̀fá ń bẹ̀, ẹ̀yin náà máa dúró pé wọn ò kí ń tẹ̀fá. Does that mean that you are wrong? Does that mean I am wrong? Bí a ṣe fi lélẹ̀ fún lúkálukú ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ni. Ẹ sì jẹ́ ká tọ̀ bọ́n ṣe fi lélẹ̀ fún wa. Ẹ dákun, ẹ jẹ́ ká yé drag ara wa lórí social media lórí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí. It's not worth it. Kò worth it rárá. Mo fi gbogbo orun mọ́lẹ̀ mo fi bẹ̀ wá. Mo fi elédùà mo fi bẹ̀ wá. Ẹ jẹ́ kọ́rọ̀ ẹ jẹ́ kó lodò kó lọ mú mi. Ẹ ṣé gan ni mo dúpẹ́. Your priestess of peace, Ire o.
In African spirituality, dreams aren't random. They're messages from the ancestors, the spirit world, and even your future self. Do you dream of your grandmother? She's not just visiting. She's speaking, offering wisdom, warning, or comfort. Do you see rivers, snakes, babies, or fire in your dreams? That's not nonsense. That's language. The spiritual world uses symbols, just like our ancestors did. The Yoruba cultures say your head, Ori, travels during sleep to receive insight from the divine. Others say the dream world is the real world, and this world is just a layer. That's why we didn't ignore dreams. We interpreted them. We respected them. We lived by them. But colonizers told us dreams were silly, evil, or meaningless. Now many of us forget our dreams when we wake in the morning, but your spirit remembers. What's a dream you've never forgotten? Comment it below. Let's decode it together. Follow Dumuzid to awaken your spiritual memory.
It's a part of, it means everything to me. It means this relationship is with everything, and it helps me, it guides me, it teaches me, it secures me, it balances me, it connects me, so to everything. So yeah.
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Voodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, brought to you by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. Our third annual New Orleans International Voodoo Day, May 23rd and 24th, 2026, promises an inspiring and immersive experience with a diverse lineup of engaging events. Highlights include an additional symposium featuring distinguished speakers from around the world, including a delegation of scholars and spiritual leaders from Benin and Haiti, as well as art exhibitions showcasing voodoo-inspired works by talented local and international artists. The event will also feature a children's program and an Afro-ecology exhibit exploring the sacred nature of plants in voodoo, their roles in spiritual practices, and their connection to our ancestors. The weekend will culminate in a ceremonial procession to 9 significant sites throughout the city, locations where the enslaved were brought ashore, held, auctioned, and where they later found community and built culture. This journey will begin at the river at the transatlantic slave route to New Orleans marker on the moonwalk, just behind Jackson Square, and will conclude with a traditional voodoo ceremony in Congo Square. Additionally, visitors can participate in interactive workshops, community discussions, and opportunities to connect with practitioners and cultural experts. And we continue to invite your continued participation and support with us live at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time on a social media platform near you or by way of our StreamYard link, which scrolls generally at the beginning of the program. It's scrolling now at the beginning of the page, and during the pre-show, the first 30 minutes before 9 p.m., I often will scroll the link to allow for your ability to join us. Thank you so much for continuing to show up in the chat and support us. Greetings and salutations to you and yours, Elijah Joshua Dupas. We certainly appreciate you. Greetings, T. Peace and blessings to you and yours. Greetings and salvations to you and yours, House of TV. We certainly appreciate you. Appreciate you promoting women entrepreneurs and joining us here from Michigan. We certainly appreciate you. Britt Brat Dash, thank you so much for your continued participation and support. And I will be briefly momentarily unmuting my beloved co-host Bianca Johnson-Plessy, team member and of NOIVD, as well as La Source, Elder Reggie on this platform we know as Green Soap, also the leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth, also a member of La Source. Greetings and salutations. We will be opening Toni Val Martinez and our beloved Elijah Dupas momentarily. As I scrolled last night briefly on the screen, tonight we want to talk about modern Louisiana voodoo. It is indeed alive and evolving. It is practiced in homes, temples, performances, and festivals. And it's part of the cultural fabric of New Orleans, especially during events like Mardi Gras, Carnival, and New Orleans International Vodou Day events. Some practitioners locally blend hoodoo, root work, conjure, candle magic, tarot, as well as other forms of divination and various demonstrations of magic and witchcraft that aren't exactly, if not at all, voodoo or even hoodoo in its practice. How do you think traditions like voodoo can be preserved while still adapting to modern life? Some additional traditional religious systems from Africa and the Aboriginal indigenous practices include certainly Orisha, the Yoruba known as Ifa, certainly the spiritual forces known as Loa and Voodoo are venerated in particularly Benin, Togo, Ghana. The Akan religion emphasizes the supreme being Inyame and ancestral spirits practiced particularly in Ghana and Ivory Coast region. The Dinka and the Noor beliefs centered on nature, cattle, and sky gods practiced in southern Sudan. Connection to ancestral spirits, the Amadelozi in South Africa among the Hausa and the Zulu belief systems, and the like, and many more. How do we, again, think about traditions like Louisiana Voodoo, New Orleans Voodoo, Haitian Voodoo, Voodoo worldwide, and how do we preserve these traditions while still adapting to modern life? Please, my beloved co-host, unmute yourselves and come on in. Bianca Johnson-Plessy, unmute yourself. Elder Reggie, please do come on in. Sister Toni Val Martinez and Elijah Dupas, thank you for participating.
Good good evening, everyone out there in the listening audience. My panelists, how everybody doing tonight? I think in order to preserve it, you have to pass it down to the next generation. That's how you preserve anything. Pass it on. You have to pass it on to the youth. Even in today, I mean, it's not like you could go from analog to digital with it. It pretty much going to stay the same tradition. You just passing it on to the next generation. It has to be passed on in order to preserve it. Just like with the Black Masking Indians, they have to pass it on to the younger generation, and they have to pass it on correctly. And you know, a lot of people are getting upset because a lot of white people have taken an interest in being masking Indians and, you know, coming into our tradition. Well, that's going to happen with anything. I mean, that's the nature of them, you know. But we have to make sure it stays within our culture, with our people.
And good evening, everyone out there. I also have another thing that I also was thinking too was bringing our kids out, like our children and stuff, out to these events. I know that we do a lot of things, and with the New Orleans, even if it's just at the Congo Square or at the Healing Center, like you say, or the full moon ritual, just like you say, the Mardi Gras or any type of thing. I also feel like it'd be great to bring our kids to this, because I know that I bring my kids to a lot of these events, and sometimes I do get backlash from like other different people that say like, why would you bring your kids to the Day of the Dead festival? Why would you bring your kids to that? You need to put them in church. You need to put them in this, and you bring them kids around there, and then they're gonna have all them evil spirits and all them different things attached to them and go home, because the kids are so innocent. And so I hear so much of that, but I think a lot of people don't understand that, like you said, that these are things that our kids do need to learn and understand as far as our ancestors, and like you said, for the future generation, as far as our elders, the storytelling, the education part of it that our kids need to understand.
Yeah, and it's a lot of that. It's easy for people will quickly um sign their kids up for Black masking Indians. They will quickly sign them up for drumming or let them go around drummers and stuff. And stilt walkers and all of these kind of things, skull and bones. But when it comes down to voodoo and hoodoo, people shelter their children from that because in their mind, it is a bad thing. It is a bad thing.
I have a question for Elder Reggie, coming from the Black Spiritualist Church background. What I have noticed, at least with our people, with our culture, is there seems to be that demonization of indigenous and our own innate spiritual practices, and there's that strong emphasis on the church, even though the Black church is kind of like a child of, many would say, of hoodoo, correct? But amongst our tradition versus other members of the diaspora, like Black people, we're a very conservative people. And I don't know if this is really the Jim Crow or like all the way down to slavery or some of the things that brought the genesis of hoodoo into being, but that demonization still exists and it prevails to this day. Of, you know, even of our ancestors, you know, worshiping your ancestors in certain circles would be seen as demonic. And I just wonder, you know, with the Black Spiritual Church being the bridge between, like, you know, conjure and mainstream, I guess you would say, Protestant and Christianity, do you think there was more within the Black Spiritual Church and, you know, Letha Anderson and everything that she did from that wing of spirituality to help kind of bridge that divide, to kind of like, I guess, appease some of that discomfort, Elder Reggie?
Yes, yes. Thanks for the question. Peace, everyone. The collective audience, Divine Prince, always a great show. Sister Toni, Sister Bianca. I think Joshua here tonight, and the brother. I don't catch your name yet, but I'll get it as you continue to come within. Yeah, I like to take a deeper little dive into the question that you asked. In fact, it was on my tongue to bring it forward before you asked the question, and that was a great segue because the New Orleans particular slice of the spiritual church was an awesome bridge between New Orleans voodoo, New Orleans hoodoo, and the church. The church was just there as a masking agent. You know, in African spirituality, masking is a big part of the tradition because behind the mask, you're giving one thing to the public, but behind the mask is where the real medicine and the real healing and the real work is being done. Even as Sister Toni bring forward the Mardi Gras Indians. Yeah, you see the Mardi Gras Indians and you see that, but you don't understand when they have an Indian practice and other things that's going on, you don't see that part of it. Because a lot of the Mardi Gras Indians used to belong to the spiritual churches also. You see them play the tambourine with excellent skill backwards and forward. Some of that comes out of the Black spiritual church. Now, as for me and my upbringing under the Mother Leap Anderson and the Mother Catherine Seal tradition, of course, in the 1920s, women was considered third-class citizens, but these women fought. They fought hard to get a system going. There was no male that was going to allow a female to stand in the pulpit and preach anything. But around New Orleans, as you've done the research, you see the voodoo and hoodoo was constantly being ushered and nurtured by women. Even though we had doctors, two-headed doctors this, two-headed doctors that, most of their clients was females that would come to them for one issue or another. And Mother Leaf Anderson came to New Orleans understanding this somewhat because of the foundation that Marie Laveau and the other queens of voodoo had built in the New Orleans area. So once the New Orleans spiritual church got established and they started putting these females in the pulpit, they was dedicated to spirit guides and bringing down spirits for possession, because within those possessions came healing, came messages, and came a way of revolution to fight the powers that be at that time. And it hurts me today because that could have been a great segue into 2025 of teaching our kids under the masking of a church system to really still give them some of the ancestor ways. Pretty much it kind of died off after Katrina in 2005. And with that being said, me and others, Divine Prince, also do it too. We are still trying to hold that door open too. See, we could do two things at one time. We can mass with the church and still be spiritual and still be voodoo, still be what we call hoodoo. It's our intent and our purpose is the results we are looking for. That's my 2 cents.
Well, personally, I disavow Christianity, the Bible, the church. I still, maintain a degree of respect for those who are still in those systems. Starting first and foremost with my well-known book author mother, Yvonne Savage. But I no longer adhere to or sort of believe or promote the church at all, really. And I do, as a Black masking Indian, I am a medicine man first before I'm a big chief. And those who know and still are operating in the realm of spirit in concert with what is going on the street during Carnival, Mardi Gras Day, or whenever you see, mass Indians, showing up. But as Elder Reggie suggested, it is a closed practice, just like hoodoo, voodoo, conjure, root work are a closed practice. And in that, I want to respond to Sean Westbrook. Nothing's being given away in social media. Nothing's being shared in social media. All I'm seeing is a bunch of top knots and clackety gel nails and tarot cards and people, you know, professing that, you know, they operating in the realm of our traditional practices. But these practices are still closed. There is a performative aspect to them. There's an entertainment aspect to them. And certainly the internet and social media crosses all those lines from appropriation, bastardization, commercialization, you know, etc. But even where the world has gotten smaller through technology, and you are seeing authentic Haitian demonstrations, Louisiana voodoo ceremonies, West African voodoo demonstrations. There's no moderator. There's no one, you know, translating, explaining what's going on, what's being done. So the heart of the tradition is still closed. And just because, you know, you can Google it, you can Bing it, you thought you saw it on YouTube, you know, doesn't mean you know anything about these practices and these traditions without sitting at the foot, the knee of elders and those of us who are actually operating within these practices. It's so easy to throw up a background, you know, and then get on TikTok and claim to know everything about all things ATR. And, you know, I start asking, you know, where you got parents, where's your community, where are your elders, you know, where are the other participants in this endeavor? Because there is no operating in isolation in indigenous Aboriginal practices and traditions. It is indeed a village, a community endeavor.
I think that's a key component that gets lost amongst the diaspora here. We're in a very unique position here amongst the diaspora, being minorities. Here in America, approximately 17% of the population versus some of the other regions, right? And so being 17% of the population and with socioeconomic barriers, right, disparities, sometimes, I don't know if it's open is the right term, but some people would say for Louisiana, but I think what it is because we're such a small minority of the population, and there's that disparity, other people get to tell our story and then they become the authors. And I think that's more of what we're seeing. We're seeing other people who are not from the culture, who have more resources, who then become the face of the culture. And I think that's what other people are reacting to. It's kind of like a what's happening with the Smithsonian and like our history being erased or being retold. You know, slavery is now becoming basically trade school. We're kind of going through that phase right now, and it's how do we empower elders like you while we still have you, because a lot of the elders are passing. How do we get the divine prince? You know, you're very visible, divine prince and green soaps and the Toni, or even Joshua when he comes into being. How do we get you guys to publish and be out there and be the actual face of the culture? And how do we, you know, reclaim, you know, ancestral power? I think that's going to be pivotal for the future.
Yes, that is going to be pivotal for the future. And to me, it goes back to what you said. It goes back to resources. I mean, if we had the resources, we could be out there every weekend recruiting and demonstrating and stuff, but we don't have the resources. We barely have the resources to maintain our own homes. We struggling on that, but it boils down, like you said, to resources.
I certainly want to allow Brother Joshua and even perhaps Bianca opportunity to speak, but I have to disagree with that. You know, even if we just look at our spending power as an African American community in America, we don't lack the resources. We lack the mindset, the will, the willingness to commit to our own, to build within our own communities, to learn that which we might, you know, not know about who we are. It's a lifelong vocation, self-discovery, self-learning. And old folks used to say, when you know better, certainly
You do better.
you do better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about, I wasn't meaning the resources from those out. I'm talking about the resources that the ones who are willing to pass it on, to teach, the ones who are willing. We don't have the resources. Not
Right.
talking about the Black community as a whole.
Right. The
Yeah,
elders,
I would
to
agree with that.
publish and things of that nature.
Mhm.
Good evening, everybody. It's Brother Josh. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Divine, and I think it boils down to really the propaganda and the things that is within our communities that has been put in place to manipulate us to think otherwise about our own self empowerment. I think we have the ability and the resources to do it. It's just a matter of us understanding that and actually taking value of that and understanding the worth of our buying power and moving forward, like into the future. I mean, we were becoming less and less of the minority and more of the majority because of science and because of biological nature. We are people that have survived and been through a lot. So genetically, we're predisposed to stronger genetic makeups that will last a lot longer than a lot of the contrary. But we got to understand our spiritual our spiritual what we are now, and as a community, as a collective, in terms of where we are, where we sit, where we dedicate our money and our worth to right now, and put it in a position where we put it back where it needs to be, where it came from, and where our all these ideologies and all these ideals of spirituality come from, which comes from a lot of indigenous practices, voodoo and American Indian culture, or culture from Caribbean. Um, it's to be placed back there to be able to empower ourselves back and actually get us it's not even about power. It's about being able to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and self-empowered to be able to do for our communities and do for ourselves.
And I also there was something that I also wanted to ask questions about, but also put an input on too. There are some things that when I first had started, like years ago, when I first had started to take interest and really want to learn more about, there was a lot of things that I had a misunderstanding about too. And I had to learn, like I had to start all over. I know that like before it used to be like a trend when everybody was like, well, not everybody, but a lot of people would say like, oh, I had a dream that one of the Yorubas like Oya or Oshun or like came to me in my dream and I was chosen and I'm the goddaughter or the like those different things. And it's like, okay, so I used to always feel like, well, do you have to be chosen by them in order to be a spiritual gifted person? And to me, I would see a lot of people would set up altars or set up these different statues and stuff to honor these people, thinking that that's the way to start. But I had to learn that, you start with your ancestors first. Like years ago when I was young, like you don't just go off into honoring and setting up for other different guys or guys below us if you don't even know what your background is. Like if you don't know what your family is, your ancestors, your bloodline, like you start out with setting up altars and getting to know your connection and your ancestors within who you are before you go setting up or honoring others that you really don't know yet because you feel like you was chosen due to a dream. So I had to learn that way, and I also taught my kids that. But I also have that question for you guys: what do you guys think about when some people do that?
I think you're correct. I think it's correct. Like any seek, when you're on that journey of seeking spirituality, you have to seek your ancestors first and seek and do genealogy, do pull stories and history on the ones that are within your family that have passed on, to understand how they lived, what they suffered, what they went through, what they practiced, and then to learn from that. That's wisdom. That's the wisest way of approaching it.
I would like to ask Divine Prince, because I don't want to assume, and that's what that was the hardest lesson I learned, leaving Louisiana and moving to a different state and moving around the world. Is Louisiana is a very unique state, unlike any other place in the world. Literally, this is a melting pot. It's diasporic, and even with the blend between voodoo and hoodoo and stuff like that in the spiritualist church, that's unlike any other place, right? And so our ancestors are very key in my mindset, right? In our mindset. But I have been around other practitioners from other traditions, from other ATRs or other diasporic traditional practices, where that component is removed from other aspects of the diaspora, and they go straight into Orisha. They go straight into the Loa. You know what I mean? And so my question would be for Divine Prince, being aware of so many different traditions, so many different hats. Is this something more of a Louisiana thing, and maybe more of like the hoodoo and spiritualist thing, that we're more inclined with our ancestors versus some of the other traditions where they go straight to some of these elevated I want to say elevated spirits. I don't want to say deities or elevated spirits, because I have been around like the Lukumi community, the Santeria community, and you know, I have been around like the Poleras and stuff like that. And I can say that like I feel it's more of like a Louisiana thing and more of a hoodoo thing. Like, what's your perspective, Divine Prince?
I would say to some degree that might be accurate, only in that we are a unique, and I might even dare say new ethnic group, in that we are
Yes.
such a mixture of so many different ethnic groups. We certainly stand on all of those ancestral shoulders, but we then bring something unique and original. Now, having said that, I was mentored and trained that, you know, all the traditions have a foundation of ancestors. There really is no growth or no progression in any of these paths without ancestors. They are indeed ethno-cultural practices and traditions, which has everything to do with not just, you know, who you related to, who your mom and daddy and them is, but where you live and how you live. Certainly the Yoruba demonstration is not exact from, you know, Oyo village to Ogun village, or from Nigeria, for that matter, to Cuba, you know, or from Cuba to Brazil. It's all from that family, that branch of Yoruba culture and practice. But whether it be Nago or Santeria or Lukumi or Voodoo with four O's or seven African powers or a Kandable, is specific to ethnic group, background, region, location, where the practices sort of are replanted and then sprout. So certainly in my house, we stand on ancestors first and foremost. And I agree with you if you were suggesting that it might even be dangerous to be invoking deities, spirits, powers that you have no relationship to, that you know nothing about. Uh, Probably just as dangerous as, you know, invoking Christian archaeology or other
Yes.
systems that, you know, were not created for us, are not a part of our genetic coding, if you will. And so voodoo is nature. First and foremost, it is nature. It is within nature. It is a product of nature. It's how we operate in our relationship to nature. But certainly that begins with who the mama is, who the daddy is, who our grandparents were, And so we are a unique ethnic group, a unique tribe, you know, for lack of better words, here in the U.S. But
Yes.
there's still a process of, you know, learning the culture, the tradition, and the regional nuances, you know, from New Orleans to the Gullah
To the Gullah
Geechee,
Geechee.
yeah, you know, traditions and practices. Wherever we were, you will find the voodoo, no matter how you spell it.
And then kind of like with me, I found it very interesting that by me being adopted, I would end up with a mother who was into hoodoo. And then when I found, and I learned from her, and then when I found my birth family, my grandmother was a reader and practiced. My natural grandmother was a reader and practiced. She had a practice in St. Louis and Chicago. I'm like, what is fate? It's in my blood and it still got
Lineage.
nurtured. Fate put me in a spot where it still got nurtured through
Well,
my
Elder
adoptive
Reggie might
mama.
agree. Well, Elder Reggie might agree that we, you know, believe in the systems that we recreate and pre-write destiny before we are born. When we're yet in heaven with the
Mhm.
great creators and the ancestors, uh, we sign an agreement, if you will, a contractual arrangement for coming into this earth and this reality. And sometimes that's hard for others to hear. Certainly, Sister Toni and I, you know, have very tragic childhoods and backgrounds and upbringing. It would be very easy for us to say we didn't choose this path. But I am grateful, honored to be where I am today as it relates to my relationship with ancestral inheritance and the demonstration that we know within these traditions.
And to me, it's like I had to go through all of that, or else I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So I mean, we had, like he said, we had some detrimental childhood events, but I don't carry that detriment with me. And looking back on it, to me, it was like a learning experience. It made me stronger. Like my mama used to say, if it don't kill you, it make you stronger. And I should be Superwoman because they tried to kill me 3 times. So, and it just made me stronger. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Elder Reggie.
If I could, I'd like to take a shot at the question Bianca raised, and that's dealing with ancestors. Be honest, I was born in the 60s. When in the 60s and the 70s, I never used to hear the word ancestor. Even though I was deep into the New Orleans spiritual church, the word ancestor didn't come up. You say my mom, papa, but the way and we using the vernacular today, and we use it as a rite of passage to practice hoodoo. To me, okay, that's fine, but your ancestors can only fight this spiritual battle to a certain degree. You're going to need a higher power to fight on a higher level with certain spirits. So come in, especially in Americas from the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, what we call the ATRs. When the ATR, at that time, we had what was called the Black is Proud, the Black movement. People was coming into self, the Afro, trying to find their self. And what came with that was, let's look back to Africa, not just for physical things, but on a spiritual level. And when those energies start coming in, because they was asked to come in, they was coming in through dreams, they was coming into out-of-body experiences, because they wanted to be known that they had not forgotten us, but basically we had forgotten them. And these energies are not ancestral spirits. Some of them never lived as a human at all, but yet they still take favor and they can still come let you know that they want a relationship with you and move forward with that. And that's what I wanted to add, because some people are getting dreams. Here, I was a devout Southern Christian spiritual church sitting on a Navy ship from Norfolk, Virginia, going to Rhodes, Spain. And I had the out-of-body experience with an African of my age bracket sitting out on side of that ship with me. I didn't ask for that, but the spirit showed up. And from that, I've been into the ATRs ever since. And so maybe my ancestors protected that and led me in that direction, but I had no way of knowing what ancestors was at that time. So as we continue to live, you got to pay attention to the energies that's knocking on your door, knocking on your window sometime, because some of them are friend and not foe. And that's the way I see it.
Elder Reggie, what do you I have a question for you before we probably start closing out. So what is your input or intake on this? So there are some things that I have questions about. So they have like tours in like Salem, like the Salem, Massachusetts, for like Salem witch trial tours. They have like Satanic temple tours, and they have like the Illuminati angels and demon tours in Rome. And you don't hear a lot. You probably do, but you don't hear a lot of negativity or backlash and all that stuff. You hear so much like, oh, this is good, it's good learning, it's educational, oh, it's it was great and all that stuff, or like there's a lot more positive for those type of tours. But when it comes down to like voodoo or hoodoo or tours in like Louisiana or just anything, even if it's outside of tours, there is so much negative, like, oh, it's fake, it's not real, I don't believe, but everybody is so into these other tours.
Yeah, a quick and dirty answer with that, if you don't mind. That voodoo, hoodoo, all that is attached to us as Black people. And Black people is not the flavor of the month in America, and it never has been. So any system that we abhor and that we move forward with, it goes with us as a people. We are downtrodden people by this system, which we fight against that every day, and we know our worth, but that don't mean others see it that way. So anything we contribute or do, we just don't get our just due. And I hate to say it that way, because I fight that battle every day. Divine Prince, Sister Toni, Brother Joshua, we fight this fight every day, and we got to continue to fight, but we are just not the flavor of the month.
It's time for our show to come to a close tonight. And I want to turn it over to Elder Reggie to close us out. And you're right, Elder Reggie, we're not the flavor of the month. We never were the flavor of the month. And it's a fear factor. They have to do something to keep other people afraid of us so they won't join us. In the 30s, when they start making movies, the Klan was kind of slipping a little bit. So they had to do something to make us feared again. So they came out with the Haitian zombie movies and that other movie about that movie they had such an uprise about with the Klan in it. And it's always something to keep us afraid, even in today's type movies, even in, you know, it's something to fear. Oh, be afraid of them. Be afraid of them. I mean, when I moved to Memphis, and soon as people found out I was from New Orleans, good Lord, you would have thought I had the plague. And the whispers and everything that went along with it. So I capitalized on the fear myself. Y'all want to be scared? I'm going to give y'all something to be scared of. I did. But Elder Reggie, you could close us out.
Thank you, Sister Toni. Thank you, Sister Bianca, for that question. I'd like to read the advertisement first. Please come out and join us. Day of the Dead, Fat Gay Day celebration. It's going to be Saturday, November the 1st. 2025, and the location is the Healing Center at 2372 St. Claude Avenue, corner of St. Roch and St. Claude. And guys, let me tell you, those in the listen who have an ear to hear in the listen area, it's a beautiful event. There's a multitude of altars that represent different disciplines, different spiritual systems, and it's just a camaraderie to come together, fellowship, and do something right. And this Fête Gede comes out of the Haitian tradition. And the Haitian are Black people with an African line also. So it's all in good. It's all good. Please, if you could come out. And then recently coming up, I want to do one more. Our next new moon ritual, prayer and application ceremony will be on the new moon, Tuesday, the 21st of October at 6:30 p.m. And that address is 710 Cluett Street. It's called the Cluett Gardens. For those in the Bywater area, they know. It's a ritual spiritual warfare gathering. Please, if you could come out, we'll be there, and we do what we do, because voodoo is, as Divine Prince said earlier in the show, it's a living experience. It's not just what we read in the past. We are making history today because it's a living entity, and we are living it. With that, I say, lest we forget, the spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. And we continue to work on that social division. With that, I say thanks everyone for coming out tonight. Ashe, 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 and we love you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night,
night,
everyone.
AYIBOBO.
Sure.
Before we wrote in letters, we spoke in symbols. Every mark carved into calabash, cloth, or wall carried spirit, story, and truth. The Adinkra of the Akan, the Nsibidi of the Igbo, the Medu Nader of Kemet. These weren't decorations, they were sacred codes. A spiral meant life without end. A cross meant balance, not crucifixion. A bird looking backward meant learning from the past to move forward. These symbols held prayers, protection, and purpose. We wore them. We etched them. We passed them down without saying a word. Colonizers couldn't understand it, so they called it primitive. But this was our original scripture. Ready to relearn the language they tried to erase? Comment the African symbol you love or want to learn. Follow Dumuzid to keep decoding your roots. In the West, healing is individual. In Africa, healing is communal. You don't suffer alone, your pain is our pain, and your healing is our shared responsibility. African spirituality was never just about me, it was about we. When someone was spiritually sick, the whole community gathered. Elders, diviners, drummers, healers, even children had a role. From naming ceremonies to cleansing rituals and grief gatherings, healing happened in circles, not in isolation, because personal pain can bring imbalance. Drumming was medicine. Dancing was a release. Storytelling was therapy. We prayed, mourned, and reconciled together. The colonizers broke our circles because a divided people are easier to control. But even in silence, our circles survived. African spirituality reminds us that no one heals alone. Your ancestors are with you. Your people are with you. You're never alone on the journey back to yourself. Who's part of your healing circle? Tag them, thank them, follow Dumuzid, let's heal.
Allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy, and that might be true. I got this white in my DNA, yet I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees. It's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Mitch, you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says, you only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down.